Hey everybody, and welcome to the History of D&D Weekly for July 4th, 2020. Happy Independence Day. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today on the History of D&D Weekly, we are going to be looking at the Thief class from original D&D. Yes, the class was once called Thief, and now Rogues, because Rogues encapsule kind of a broader range of character archetypes, which was always the intent of the Thief class, but Thief just sort of always made it sound like they were there to steal something. And truth be told, the Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax were both heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings. So, the fact that the dwarves refer to Bilbo in The Hobbit as the thief of the group, then that sort of lends credence to where they got the names for all of the classes and everything early on. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the resource book and take a look at the Thief class. We're using the Rules Encyclopedia like we have for the other classes. The Thief, just like Rogues of today, their primary stat is Dexterity. So you want a high Dexterity, and they get a bonus, an experience point bonus for Dexterity that's at least 13. And if it's 16 or more, you get a 10% experience bonus. Now, the hit dice, like the magic user, the thief only gets 1d4 hit dice per level up to 9th level. And plus they're entitled to any constitution bonus along the way. Then at 10th level and above, they only get 2 hit points. And they don't get a constitution bonus every level. So they max out at 36. Terms of armor, they can only wear leather armor. They're not allowed to have shields. They can use any missile weapon and any one-handed melee weapon. Then they get a suite of special abilities. So they can open locks, find traps, remove traps, climb walls, move silently, hide in shadows, pickpockets, hear noise, and backstab. Then at 4th level, they gain the ability to read any normal language at 80%. At 10th level, they can cast magic user spells from scrolls with a 10% chance that the magic will backfire. And then there's an entire table that tells you what the chances of those. We'll look at that a little bit. Now, thieves, because they are a class that sounds like a class, it means the only race available to play them is human. You cannot play a halfling thief, you cannot play an elf thief, you cannot play a dwarf thief. Those do not exist in original D&D, so don't ask. It's just not what they intended. Next week, D&D Weekly, we're going to look at the demi-human classes, so you'll see where they came from and why they have those 3 races as each being their own class, or at least the justification that the creators of original D&D would give you. Clearly, they came to their senses after a while, because by AD&D, oh yes, you could have a half-orc rogue, or an elf fighter, or a dwarven cleric if you wanted to. Made sense. But in original D&D, they weren't that forward-thinking. So thieves are, they're the scouts. They check for traps. They, find the secret doors, do all these kinds of things. And thieves, guilds, and, Thieves Guild are a thing, and they have this notion that there's a building called the Guild Hall where all the thieves hang out. Well, it's like, yeah, probably it's actually a tavern or something like that, and just those people in the underworld of the town know that it's the Guild Hall. Um, Thieves' jobs uses special abilities where needed, and then so they can stand back from range and fire missile weapons, or they can run up and stab people with a dagger or a short sword or something like that. Okay, again, weapons, and it just clarifies here in their weapons that two-handed weapons are prohibited. So, no, you can't have a great sword or a great axe, or a halberd for that matter, as a thief. Thieves have numerous special abilities, some at first level and others as they go up. And then, here's a little bit on the special abilities that they get. Open locks, and these abbreviations are here because they have tables, and of course they abbreviate everything on a table, so it's kind of horrible, but this was the 1970s, so they didn't know any better back then. Open lock, so with successful use of this ability and with professional lock picks or thieves' tools, thief may open lock. Character may try to use this skill only once per lock. Thief may not try again with that particular lock until he gains another level of experience. Without lockpick, he cannot use this ability. That's the other kind of annoying thing here, is that they just go. They were lazy in the writing, so they just go within what they imagine is a gender neutral he here. So, all right. And if I'm reading through it, sometimes I fall into that trap myself. All right. So, fine. Speaking of traps, there's fine traps. With successful use of this special ability, a thief may examine a room or an object and determine whether it is rigged with traps. The thief can check only once per trap, and failure prevents the character from finding any trap in or on the object searched. And another thing here is that the DM is supposed to do this role. And is supposed to do this role in secret. And just, these days, you have your characters randomly do perception checks. And they get used to doing perception checks sometimes when there's nothing there to perceive. And then occasionally they'll do a perception check, and there is something there. And sometimes if they roll crappy, it's like, well, you don't see anything. And they think, okay, well, that was just another perception check. And they go and they fall into the pit and get corroded by the acid. And the DM sits there and rubs his hands with glee. But other times they do notice it. Thief finds trap, uses remove traps ability to remove or deactivate it. So remove traps is the companion of find traps. Successful use of this special ability, a thief may remove or reactivate or deactivate a trap. A thief cannot roll this ability against a trap unless the trap has been found, and only do this once. Climb walls. The thief can climb steep surfaces such as sheer cliffs, walls, and so forth. Chances for success are good, but if failed, okay, the thief slips at the halfway point and falls. And you only get, for however high the wall is, if the wall is up to 100 feet high, you only roll once. So if you're trying to scale an 80-foot wall, you roll one time as the DM, and that's at the 40-foot level. So then you take 40 feet of falling damage. That's just it. Over, done with, end of story. If it's a 100-foot wall, you roll at the 50-foot level. If it's, let's say, 150 feet, you roll once at the 50-foot level, and then you roll once at the 125-foot level because you're rolling one time for that last 50 feet. And if you make the first one but you fail the second one, well, you're 125 feet up, so you take 12d6 falling damage. Presuming you haven't, uh, knocked yourself in with pitons or something like that, or that you don't have a rope or something. Um, and falling during a 10-foot climb will inflict one point of damage. And when you only have D4 hit points, 1 point of damage, that's a quarter of your hit points. So, yeah, it's a pretty nasty thing, but it is the percentages are pretty high, and we will look at the table in a few minutes to see how that works. Now, move silently. Success of this special ability allows the thief to move silently. And a thief always thinks they are successful, but a failed roll means someone can hear his passage. And the DM will make that roll, and of course, it would be kind of dumb to make that. I mean, for the suspension of to keep the players on their toes, you want to roll the move silently for them as often as possible, even when there's nobody there to hear it. And then, even if you roll a botch for them, they think they're successful. So if there's nobody there to hear it, oh wow, you're just so quiet today, man. You're tiptoeing so good. And they get used to that, and then the time they botch it when there is somebody there to hear it, man, you're really really doing well. Hey, somebody shouts intruders, and then a bunch of goblins come running out. Okay, so yeah, moving silently across dried leaves, percentage chance would go down. And of course, it's left up to the DM to interpret, like a lot of things. So, maybe your chances are half as good if you're on dried leaves, or if you're walking through gravel or something like that. Hide in shadows. Thief moves into and remains in shadows, making the thief very hard to see. Observers only get a chance to see him. They look directly at the thief, at which time the thief has to roll again. So, very complicated. Much, much, much easier to use the 5e perception check. Okay. Or stealth check. Does your stealth beat their passive perception? Yes, it does. Okay, are they actively looking for her? They roll a perception. If their perception beats your stealth, they find you. Doesn't, they don't. Pickpockets. The special ability allows a character to steal things from another character's person without that other character knowing. Roll is a simple failure. The thief fails to get their hands on what they're seeking. Now, here's where you start to get the slide rule out. If the roll is greater than twice what the thief needs to succeed, or a 0-0 in any case, the thief is caught in the act by his intended victim and possibly others. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What do you say? If the roll is greater, well, isn't a big number better? No. Big number is not better. You want to roll under the target percentage chance. So if you have a 15% chance, yeah, you roll 1 through 15. So if you have a okay, so if the thief has, let's say, a 25%, what is pickpockets? Pickpocket starts at 20%. So let's say you're a third level thief. So you got a 30% chance. If you roll a failure that's between 31 and 60, then you just don't get your hands on what you're looking for. However, if you roll like a 65, then you get caught trying to steal. So that's what that means. Um, and hear noise. A special ability gives the thief the ability to hear faint noises such as breathing on the other side of the door or the clatter of distant footsteps approaching fast. Um, and then depending on uh, the ambient noise. So, like if you're in the middle of a fight, you probably can't use hear noise to hear, a uh, a bunch of people sneaking up from behind you, because you're focused on the fight and there's a lot of noise from the fighting right there. So that is that. Then um, this is advice for players. Watch for opportunities to use special abilities and simply tell your dungeon master when you want your thief to use from. So other thief abilities that they gain later. Backstabbing. Okay, so here's the backstab, which they in modern D&D there's sneak attack damage. It used to be called backstabbing. Thief can sneak up on a victim completely unnoticed. Thief may backstab if he's using a one-handed melee weapon. He may strike particularly vulnerable parts of the target's body. So when backstabbing, the thief gains a bonus of +4 on the attack roll, and if the target is hit, the damage done is twice normal. So roll the damage for the weapon and multiply by 2, and then add any modifiers. So if the intended victim sees here or is warned, then the thief's attack is not a backstab. So when no battle is in progress, a backstab attempt may require a move silently ability check. Read languages. Thief reaches 4th level. It gains 80% chance to read any normal writing or language, including simple codes, dead languages, treasure maps, and so on, but not magical writings. Tries but fails to read a piece of writing must gain at least 1 experience level before trying again. And then cast a spell from magic user scrolls. At 10th level, a thief gains the ability to cast magic user spells. However, there is always a 10% chance the spell will backfire, creating an unexpected result, because of the thief's imperfect understanding of magical writings. Higher experience level. Once again, hey, guess what? Thieves get to decide whether they want to be landowning thieves or they want to be traveling thieves. So, hey, landowning thief. Pardon me. Okay, note to self. Don't ever do these without something to drink. All right. A landowning thief built himself a big hotel and calls it Trump Tower. No, a landowning thief can construct a hideout, fortified house in a city, network of caves, whatever. And they will attract 2d6 first level apprentice thieves who come to learn from a master. And then the player character may want to consider setting up a thieves guild so they can become the master of a thieves guild, and all of that kind of stuff, and a guild hall. And then, of course, there's if you're the master of a guild hall, you get a little bit of the proceeds from all the jobs that the thieves do, so you can become fairly wealthy from doing that. Now, and then it goes into sort of all of this. Character can at some point ask for control of a larger branch of the guild, recommended when 18th level is reached, and may eventually become a powerful official in the guild headquarters. So that's presuming that you have a, you know, this is a bureaucratic thieves guild apparently, where all of the thieves guilds in every town are somehow connected in a larger organization. It's organized crime. So you're becoming a mob boss basically. Um, traveling thieves. Name a thief who chooses not to establish a hideout or station in a local guild is a traveling thief known as a rogue. And rogues must remain members of a thieves guild, though they need visit the guild only once a year. Um, if a character is ever a rogue, they can never become a guild master in an established branch of the guild. But if the current guild master permits, the rogue can eventually settle down and open up a new branch of a guild. Rogue has a chance once per game week of discovering treasure maps or rumors about the location of great treasures. Likewise, Rogue may visit any branch of the Thieves Guild to see the Guildmaster and learn any information, tips, rumors. Guildmaster is willing to suffer his presence in a territory. All right. And that's it. So, yeah, thieves don't get a whole lot of extra stuff. Well, let's just take a look at their experience level. Now, they level at the same rate as, I believe, clerics. 1200 for second level, 2400 for third level, so on and so forth. And then these little asterisks means you gain extra abilities at those levels. And then the level open locks, find traps, remove traps, climb walls, move silently, hide in shadows, pickpockets, hear noise. Some of these start very low. So you'll see like find traps is at 10%, hide in shadows is only 10%. But some of them start pretty high, like climb walls is 87%. But as you look down at it, they all eventually will reach and even exceed 100%. The only one that moves silently is the only one that only actually gets to 100%, and that's at max level. Well, okay, I guess Hide and Shadows also does that. It's also on a similar scale, although the percentages in between are different. So pickpockets, some of them you get to 100% pretty early. I guess the quickest one you get to is climb walls. Makes sense because you start at 87%, and then you max out with remove traps at 130, and then with pickpockets you max out at 195. So that's really good. So I guess there's no way once you get to level 18, there's no way that you can fail picking pockets unless there are special circumstances that raise the chance to higher than 100%, or the raise the skill required to higher than 100%. All right. So that is the thief. Next week, as I said, we are going to look at what they refer to in this edition as the demi-human, but what we refer to demi-human classes, but what we refer to as race of dwarf, halfling, and elf. We'll do that all in one session. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, for dropping by today and looking at this discussion of the Thief class from original D&D. If you like the videos we put up here, please go ahead and subscribe. Click that subscribe button down below. Click the notification bell. That way you'll hear about any new content as soon as it drops on the channel. Also, just want to say you can follow me on social media. It's all in the descriptions below. And if you have any comments about the older editions of the game, maybe there's a nostalgia factor, something you really like from the older editions, or maybe you've been watching through some of these and you go, my God, I'm so glad they evolved out of this. Things that you hate about the old editions of the game. It would be interesting to see people's thoughts on that. All right, take care, everyone. We hope to see you back here next week for History of D&D Weekly. Until then, peace out.